Okay, Mother's Day. Why do we have a special day for Mother's Day? I reckon every day should be Mother's Day. I appreciated Neville's Mother's Day or May news sheet. Spoke about mothers, different aspects of mothers. Because many people no longer have mothers. Many women are not mothers. I sent a message to my niece and nephews this morning. This is their first day without their mother. Their mother passed away a month ago. So it's not going to be an easy day for them. Thanks, Dean, for your communion. I thought that was great. And often it's not easy to speak about mothers. Sadly, some mothers fall short. And often it's no fault of their own. Sometimes they just lack the ability to be able to communicate the way we would like. I can't remember my mother ever telling me she loved me. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. Yet, I know she did. I know she did. But it was something that was hard for her to say for some reason. Today, for some, it's not going to be a happy day. It's not going to be a good day. So I just think, why do we have to have a special day for things? We have Secretary Day, we have Save the Platypus Day, we have this day, we have that day. There's that many days that we can have where I think, surely we should just live life. And all these things should be part of every day. So I've put down here, maybe we need a family day. But then again, every day should be family day. And what I want to do today is I want to talk a little bit about family. Because with what I personally have been through in the last 12 months or so with losing a sister, she's the first one of 9 of us. There's always been 9 of us. That's only 5, but you can imagine the other 4. There's always been 9 of us. Now the one that was smack bang in the middle has gone. So now there's only 8 of us. And I believe I belong to quite a unique family. Now I'm talking about my siblings. My immediate family is absolutely awesome. It's the best family in the world. Okay, but my siblings, I reckon they're the best siblings in the world also. I now have 4 sisters and 3 brothers. And when we get together, people often comment about my family, particularly at weddings, when we've had family reunions, different things. When the other people have come in, they've commented on my family. How 9 siblings could get on so well together. Now, that hasn't always been the case. Because when we were little, we were like any other family. We fought, we argued, we carried on and did all the things that normal kids do. But as we grew up, we lost our parents fairly early. And so it meant that there were the 9 of us, and we looked after each other. And through it, we didn't always agree. And the fact is we still don't always agree. But we respect each other. We love each other. And we give each other the freedom to be themselves, to be ourselves. I was at my sister's place one day and my brother rang my sister. And she had him on loudspeaker. And she said to my brother, "Be careful what you say, you've got another sister here." And he said, "Which one?" And her response was, the one you don't swear in front of. So I just let it go, and when she got off the phone, I said to her, why did you make that comment? I don't care whether you swear or not. And she said, I know that. She says, but out of respect for you, we choose not to, because we know your stance, we know your lifestyle, we know what you believe. So having said that, I'm talking about relationships and family relationships. Sadly today we live in a society where there's much confusion. What constitutes family today? If we listen to the media, we have broken families, we have fractured families, we have families of divorce, we have one-parent families, we have same-sex families, we have blended families. Now you would think in all of that, somewhere along the line we'd get it right. But in all of this, we still have family abuse. Family abuse is rife in our society today and has been for a long time. Doesn't seem to be getting any better. In my family, when I was growing up, there was family abuse. You would think, I'm not telling you how old I am, but I am classified as aged, which I object to, because I don't feel aged. But that's going back a long time, and it's still rife. Why? I believe part of it is because we've embraced all sorts of philosophies and turned our back on God's plan. When we turn our back on God's plan, confusion reigns. And really, we do live in a society that's turned its back on God. We don't know who we are, even though we sing it, and we sang some fantastic songs this morning. We sing it, and then we walk away from here, and we forget it often. And we need not do that. We need to remember what we sing. And it seems to be easier to believe that we evolved from monkeys than it is to believe that we were created by a loving Heavenly Father. Both of these take faith. I don't know about you, but it amazes me that people can believe that man and woman evolved at the same time, opposite sex, in exactly the right order to procreate. Not only that, but all the animals. Everything. Now, if things happen by random chance, how can that be? To me, it just blows my mind. To me, it's easier to believe in a creator than evolution. Evolution doesn't make sense to me. I've believed for years that if evolution were true, every woman would have half a dozen hands. They need them. They need them. Okay, so we've got different beliefs. What does it cause? It causes confusion. And I might be confused here too, because I've got down the basis of our church as the 3 R's, but I never know in which order they go. It's relationship, relevance and restoration. And I want to talk a little bit, that's the order I've put them in. I don't know whether it's right, Neville, don't tell me anyway. I said to Richard this morning, do you want to read my notes? You can read them, but don't tell me where I'm wrong. And he said to me, do you reckon you're going to be wrong? I said, no, but you're going to say, well, maybe you could say it this way. No, I'm going to say it my way. In Genesis, we see that God created man and then said it was not good for man to be alone. He then created woman. Why? For relationship and family. I could say lots of things there, but I'm going to refrain. Okay, for relationship and family. Then they sinned. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 10, Adam and Eve had sinned they went and hid themselves. God said to them, "Where are you?" And Adam said, "We're hiding. We know we're naked and we're hiding." God said to them, "Who told you you were naked?" To me, what was the big deal? They were naked anyway. They were naked before they sinned. So why was it a big deal when they sinned? Nothing had changed except their thought process. They were confused. They had listened to another voice. They were now confused. And today we have that many voices bombarding us with, this is what family life is like, this is what family should be like. If you don't fit in this sort of family, maybe you fit in that sort of family. We've got all sorts of options, and confusion and family abuse still reigns. What is God's plan for family relationships? I'm going to read from the Message when I find it. And in the Message, in Ephesians 5 verse 21 through to Ephesians 6 verse 4. It says here, "Out of respect for Christ, be courteous, reverent to one another. Wives, understand and support your husbands in ways that show your support for Christ. The husband provides leadership to his wife the way Christ does to the church, not by domineering, but by cherishing. So, just as the church submits to Christ as he exercises such leadership, wives should likewise submit to their husbands. Husbands, go all out in love for your wives, exactly as Christ did for the church. A love marked by giving, not getting. Christ's love makes the church whole. His words evoke her beauty. Everything he does and says is designed to bring out the best in her, dressing her in dazzling white silk, radiant in holiness. And that is how husbands ought to love their wives. They're really doing themselves a favour since they're already one in marriage. No one abuses his own body, does he? No, he feeds and pampers it. That's how Christ treats us, the church, since we are part of his body. And this is why a man leaves his father and mother and cherishes his wife. No longer two, they become one flesh. This is a huge mystery, and I don't pretend to understand it all. What is clearest to me is the way Christ treats the church, and this provides a good picture of how each husband is to treat his wife, loving himself in loving her, and how each wife is to honour or respect her husband. Children, do what your parents tell you. This is only right. Honour and respect your father and mother. This is the first commandment that has a promise attached to it, namely, so you will live well and have a long life. Fathers or parents, don't exasperate your children by coming down hard on them. Take them by the hand and lead them in the way of the Master. I really do like the way he puts things. Okay, in Ephesians 5, 22 to 24, the wife is to support, submit, honour and respect her husband. He provides leadership. This is the way Christ does the same way as Christ does to the church. Often we get scriptures like that and we take them out of context. And I've heard many, many men say, the wife is to submit. And I've heard women say, well, I have to submit to my husband. Yes. But it's the way the way Christ is submitted to the church. It's an example given to us. It doesn't mean that women don't have a voice. It doesn't mean that women don't have a say. And I've always believed this has got nothing to do with all the movements that have sprouted up in the last 12 months or so for women to speak out against certain things. The wife is to support, submit, honour and respect her husband. Then we go to the husbands. And the husband is to love his wife. A love marked by giving, not getting. Everything you do is to bring out the best in her. Verse 9 says, don't abuse her. Women are not told to love their husbands. Why? Have you thought about it? Women are not told to love their husbands. I believe it's because women love really easily. It's not hard for women to love. It's their nature. And you'll often hear, and I think Bob Mumford many, many years ago when he was talking about breakdown in marriages, relationships don't usually break down through lack of love. It's through lack of respect. Why do people women particularly keep going back into abusive relationships? You ask them why and they say, but I love him. I love him. It's got nothing to do with love. Women need to be able to respect their men. Women are exhorted to respect. It's not always easy to respect men. My father was abusive. Did I respect him? No, I didn't. I hated him. I went through a long time in my life hating my father. It was only as when I became a Christian that I realised that, hey, there's a lot of my father in me. There's a lot of things my father did that I learnt from. And I didn't love what he did, but I believe I loved my father as a father. Even though he was wrong, he was still my father, and he's the father that God gave me. Women need to know who they are in God's plan in order to respect themselves, and then they can respect others. Because if you don't respect yourself, you're not going to respect anybody else. Okay? And the best thing a mother can do for her children, particularly her daughters, is to teach them who they are and the fact that they need to be respected. Okay? If you can't stand up for yourself, you're not going to stand up for your children. If we're going to bring godly relations back into the world, it needs to be done God's way. Husbands are exhorted to love. Why are they exhorted to love? To many men, and please hear this in the spirit that I mean it. I'm not having a go at any man, okay? But often, to many men, love means sex. The world says that if you love me, let's make love. Meaning sex. Sex doesn't mean love. Sex can mean rape. Sex makes babies. Young ones, stay away from it until you're married. As I say to my grandkids all the time, you're free to make choices, but you're not free from the consequences. Husbands are instructed to love as Christ loved. Okay, so how did Christ love? He loved to bring out the best. Husbands are to love their wives as Christ loved, to bring out the best in your wives. And fathers, you have a job to do too. You need to teach your sons how to respect women. How are they going to know how to relate to women if you don't teach them the right way to relate to women? Children, in Ephesians 6, it says to respect, honour your father and mother. father, or I say, it only says fathers, and I don't know why it says fathers. So I've just added parents because I think it's hard, it's not good to pick on the men. Okay? So, because many women can exasperate their children, it's not just fathers. So don't exasperate your children by coming down hard on them. Take them by the hand and lead them in the way of the Master. Okay? Take them by the hand. Show them. Show them. Often a father's response is, didn't I tell you? How many times do I have to tell you? When are you going to learn? When are you going to grow up? They're in the process of doing all of that as they're led. Okay? They need to be led. Okay, that's relationship. Relevance. Is this relevant for today's society, in today's confusion? I think it definitely is. We need to come back to God's plan for relationship, all relationships. In 1 Corinthians 14:33 in the Message, it says, God doesn't stir us up into confusion. He brings harmony. The world needs to see what family, what relationship should be like. They don't read their Bible, but they will read you. They'll look at your family. Okay, you go to church, you're supposed to be Christian. What's your family like? They'll certainly tell you if it's out of order. Restoration. God is still in the restoration business. Restoration is what God does best. Just as faith in Christ and his death and resurrection restored us to himself, he wants to restore our relationships. Okay, how important is relationship to you? How important is restoration? How important is your family? Has a family member offended you? What are you prepared to do to restore that relationship? Richard and I, many years ago, went down to visit his mother at one time. And I got on pretty well with my mother-in-law. She was pretty good most of the time. But this particular day, we had a doozy of an argument. She said something, so I responded. And I think it's as Dean said this morning, you come between a mother and a child, look out. So anyway, this argument happened to the degree that Richard came in and said, what's going on? And I said, I want out of here. And he said, come on, we're leaving. And we'd only been there probably 10 minutes. And anyway, on the way home, Richard said to me, we're going home. I said, no, take me to Mum. So on the way home, we stopped off at Warrigal and I spoke to my mum. That's how important mums are. And when they're not there, you miss it. Anyway, I can't remember what transpired between Mum and I. But we finished up going home. And about 3 weeks later, we went to church. Well, we're going to church every week, but this was about 3 weeks later. The pastor spoke on family and family relationships, etc. And I thought, oh, God. Anyway, it culminated in, after the meeting, I said to Richard, I think we need to go and see your mum. And he just looked at me and he said, are you going to apologise? I said, no. I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything that I needed to apologise for. And I don't think I did. I didn't say anything that I needed to apologise for. Everything I said was true. But I said to Richard, I know your mother. And I said, I know she will not reach out to me. So I said, all I'm going to do is go and reach out. if she starts again on where we left off, I said, I'm out of there. I said, but if she greets us as if there's been nothing wrong, etc., I'm happy to stay. So he said, okay, and that was the reason. That was how we went down there. Well, when I arrived there, you would think I was her long-lost friend, etc. And that particular situation was never, ever mentioned again. Now, I would have been quite within my rights not to go. But if I decided that was the position I was going to take, that relationship would never have been restored. It would have fractured my husband's relationship with his mother because I was putting him in a place where he would have to choose. It would rob my children of a grandparent or two grandparents, and I wasn't prepared to do that. So, what price do you put on relationship? But often we'll say, but I'm right. So what? Jesus was without sin. He didn't have to go to the cross. He would have been quite within his rights to say to the Father, hey, come on. They got themselves in the mess, let them get themselves out. He knew they couldn't. And he knows that we can't work relationships without him. So what price are you prepared to pay for restoration? Jesus paid the ultimate price. He gave his life. In Malachi 4:6, and again in the Message, it says, and he will turn the hearts of the father, or the parents, this is in the last days, to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers. God's ultimate plan has always been, and is still, he wants relationships restored. It's not only family relationships, it applies to friendships and that as well. Because in Ephesians 5, verse 21, it says, out of respect for Christ, be courteously reverent to one another. So that covers everybody. Be courteously reverent to one another. I was talking to my son one day. He'd had a fallout with a relation, and he wasn't happy about the fact that he was being forced into a position where he would have to confront this relation, or he would have to be in the presence of this relation, not confront them. And he wasn't happy about it, and he was telling me about it. And I just said to him, well, I expect you to behave in the way that you were brought up. And he says, what do you mean? And I said, I want you to be courteous. I want you to be civil. I want you to treat them with respect. And he just said to me, we'll see. But we do. We need to be able to respect each other. I'm just trusting this morning that relationships are reasonably okay. But I'm going to challenge you. If they're not, what are you going to do about it? Don't let confusion reign. Do what you can to restore relationships. Now, some relationships, I realise, there's a lot of things go on, and not all relationships are easily restored. But perhaps today you can take a step, make a step towards, okay, I'm open to it, Lord. Show me how to restore, what I can do to restore a relationship. Because often broken relationships are not your fault. They can be other people's fault. But what can you do? What can you do? One thing you can do is pray about it. Another thing you can do is make a decision. I will do all that is within my power to make steps towards restoring relationships. Because relationships often will not get restored overnight. They can break in a minute, but it can take a long time for them to be restored. But somebody has to make a first move. I'm not telling you what to do. I wouldn't do that because I'm not in your boat. I'm not in your situation. But when I was thinking about this, last week we sang a song. And this is what I was thinking of talking about, and I'd half put notes together, I thought we can make a declaration, because as I said, we sing things that we won't say. And often with relationships, as I said, they're not easily mended. They take work. But if we make a decision to do something, we hand it over to God. Okay, God, this is out of my control. I'm handing this over to you. When we do that, we can then sing choruses such as this one. Here I stand, forgiven. Here I stand, holy and righteous. He paid the price when he laid down his life. Jesus, I surrender all. So if you've got a relationship that is fractured, broken, or needs restoration, maybe you can think on those lines. Maybe you can sing that song. Maybe you can take steps to restoring it. Okay? Happy Mother's Day. Hope I haven't offended anyone. Wasn't my intention. If I have, too bad. Steve preached a message once, which I'll never forget. He said he could not offend anybody. Offence is taken, not given. That stuck with me, Steve, so that's many, many years ago.